Hey there, and welcome. Today, we're digging into a topic that is pretty much everywhere these days, plant-based eating. But we're going to cut through all the noise and get our info straight from the experts. Everything we talk about today comes directly from the British Dietetic Association, so you know it's the real deal. Let's get right into it. I mean, you hear this term all the time, right? On social media, on menus, maybe from a friend who's really into it. But what does it actually mean? Can it feel a little vague? Does it mean you have to go full vegan, or is it something else entirely? Well, let's clear that up right now. And there you have it. Pretty simple, huh? Basically, it's all about making plant foods like veggies, fruits, nuts, and grains the star of your plate. It's not always about cutting things out completely, but more about what your diet is primarily built on. And that little shift in thinking, it opens up a huge world of possibilities. Okay, so one of the most important things to get is that this isn't some super strict black and white thing. You don't have to follow one rigid set of rules. It's much better to think of it more like a spectrum with lots of different approaches that can fit pretty much any lifestyle. So check this out. On one end, you've got a vegan diet, which excludes all animal products. Then you have vegetarians, pescatarians, and all the way over to flexitarians who mostly eat plants but will have some meat or fish now and then. The main thing to remember here, it's all about flexibility. It's not about being perfect, it's about finding what fits your life.
Okay, so why is everyone talking about this? What's the big deal? Well, it usually boils down to two huge reasons. Some pretty amazing benefits for our own health and a really positive impact on the health of the planet. And you know, the science on this is actually pretty compelling. The BDA points out that a well-planned plant-based diet is linked to a lower risk of some major chronic diseases. We're talking about things like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, and even certain cancers. It really just goes to show how much our food choices matter, right? And then there's the environmental side of things, which is, wow, get this. A well-planned, fully plant-based diet uses just 1/3 of the land, fresh water, and energy of a typical UK diet. Just 1/3. I mean, when you think about it, that's a staggering difference. Okay, so maybe you're thinking, this sounds pretty good. But the big question always is, what about nutrition? Am I going to get everything I need? Well, the key isn't restriction, it's just about smart planning. So let's go through a quick checklist to make sure you're thriving.
This is always question number one, isn't it? But where do you get your protein? It's the classic. And the awesome news is, plants are absolutely loaded with it.
I mean, just look at all these options. You could have hearty lentils and beans in a chili, some tofu in a stir fry, or hey, even just good old peanut butter on whole grain toast. It is totally doable and delicious to get all the protein you need.
Now, this is a really great practical tip from the BDA. Those plant-based burgers and sausages you see in the store, they can be super helpful, especially when you're starting out. But it's good to remember they're often processed foods. So the advice is to treat them kind of like any other processed food. Enjoy them, but in moderation, and maybe take a quick peek at the salt and fat on the label. All right, next up on our checklist, iron. This is so important for keeping your energy levels up. If you don't get enough, you can end up feeling tired and run down. And yep, you can totally get all you need from plants. So you're probably noticing a pattern here. Beans, lentils, nuts, seeds, these guys are just nutritional powerhouses. But don't forget about other great sources like leafy greens, think spinach and kale, and even things like dried apricots. Okay, this is a game changer. Seriously, the iron you get from plants is a little different from the iron in meat. Your body needs a little help to absorb it. But here's the trick. Pair it with some vitamin C. So a squeeze of lemon juice over your lentil soup or having some bell peppers with your spinach salad, that simple combo can make a huge difference in how much iron your body actually uses. All right, let's talk calcium. Super important for our bones, right? And if you're cutting back on dairy or cutting it out completely, it's just a matter of knowing where else to find it. And there are plenty of places. The great thing is, so many plant milks and yogurts these days are fortified with calcium, often to the same level as cow's milk. Plus, you have fantastic natural sources like calcium-set tofu, almonds, sesame seeds, and of course, leafy greens like kale. So how much are we talking about? Well, for most adults, the goal is around 700 milligrams a day. And it's not as hard as it sounds. For example, a big glass of fortified plant milk and a good serving of that calcium-set tofu can get you a big chunk of the way there. All right, everyone, listen up because this one is super important. especially if you're following a fully vegan diet. Vitamin B12 is the one thing that's totally non-negotiable. You have to plan for it. It's essential for healthy nerves and blood cells. So here's the bottom line. You cannot get B12 naturally from plants. Period. That's not an opinion. It's just a biological fact. So if you're vegan, your only reliable options are foods that have been fortified with B12 or just taking a simple supplement. And thankfully, the BDA strategy is super straightforward. Option 1, you make sure to eat fortified foods like some cereals, yeast extracts, or plant yogurts at least twice a day every day. Or option 2, which for a lot of people is simpler, just take a supplement, either a small daily dose or a larger weekly one. Easy. Okay, just a few other quick ones to keep on your radar: omega-3s, zinc, and iodine. And the great news is, if you're eating a nice variety of foods like flax seeds, walnuts, beans, and nuts, you're likely going to be covered for the first two. For iodine, just look for fortified plant milks or have a little seaweed every now and then, but not too much. Whew. Okay, we've covered a ton of ground, haven't we? So let's bring it all together with the top tips for success, straight from the British Dietetic Association. So let's do a quick fire round of the most important things to remember. 1. A well-planned plant-based diet can be healthy for anyone at any stage of life. 2. It can seriously lower your risk of chronic diseases. 3. Vegans must have a reliable source of B12, no exceptions. 4. If you're cutting out dairy, make sure you're getting calcium from other places. And finally, number 5, the golden rule that applies to any healthy diet: variety is key. And that's a wrap. So I want to leave you with a question. After hearing all this, what's one small, tiny plant-based change you might be curious to try? Maybe it's just trying a meat-free Monday, or swapping the milk in your coffee, or trying a new bean recipe. No big commitment, just something to think about. Thanks so much for tuning in.